Welcome to Part 3. General signs of distress in youth are indicated by fears and anxieties that surface in more frequent or distressing manners, behavioral aggression that is disruptive or injury evoking, loss of pleasure in ordinarily enjoyable activities, such as a child who once loved baseball no longer goes to practice and hides his glove, withdrawal and constriction. A silence of words, emotion, or engagement can be a call for help. Difficulty in concentrating. All children are a little hyperactive from time to time, but when a child cannot focus, concentrate, and seems to need perpetual and constant activity, there could be a signal being given. Sleep-related difficulties, either in an inability to sleep, having nightmares, or waking fitfully. Personality changes that are real and definable. Body aches and pains, particularly related to the genital areas. Behavioral acting out, or changes in behavior that is inappropriate and unacceptable. Any one of these is troubling and should be attended to, but when you begin to see several of these manifest in a child, clearly the child is attempting to signal for help and may not have the words to express the pain, fear, and anger. In addition to general signs of distress, a child who has been the victim of sexual abuse may also struggle with unwanted images and thoughts, retelling and replaying the abuse, poor body image, excessive sexualized play, self-blame, and guilt. It is critical to help the child realize that there is no blame, no shame. Children have a limited number of ways to express inner distress. Under the age of 11, feelings of distress are most often manifest in behavior, and the behavioral changes most often occur immediately. There is no single profile for an abuser of children. They may be a child, adolescent, or adult, well known and liked by the child, any socioeconomic group, every religious background, every career base, married or single, male or female. The most common sex offender is male, married, knows the victim, and could be from any socioeconomic group, any religious denomination, and any career base. There are three general categories of abusers. Opportunists are those who seek children regularly until they are caught. Opportunists appear at bus stops, playgrounds, carnivals, wherever children are regularly present, seeking the one child he or she will court. Pedophile has no sexual interest in adults and is sexually attracted to children under the age of 13. A sex offender is an individual who is drawn to children for sexual exploitation. Here is where we see individuals engaged in child pornography. Let's take a look at red flags in relationships. When an adult displays poor boundaries in work with young people, spends the majority of social interactions with children and not other adults, shows great charm and charisma around young people and is awkward with adults, singles out one child with special privileges, isolates one child from the others, photographs or videotapes young people exclusively, has items at home or in a vehicle that are of interest to young people, manipulates young people easily using gifts, money, and traits. Why children don't tell. Children fear reprisals from the offender. Offenders tell the children that no one will believe them, and that even if someone does, the child is to blame. Offenders openly threaten the safety of the child or the child's family. Offenders tell the child the perpetrator will get into trouble. This is particularly fearsome for the child when the perpetrator is a family member. The offender promises gifts and rewards for silence. Know how to report suspected child abuse. Call Child Protective Services or the local law enforcement agency. Any individual in both Delaware and Maryland who reports suspected child abuse is protected under the law and provided anonymity. Notify the Catholic Diocese of Wilmington if an employee, clergy member, or volunteer is reported so that the diocese is able to work with the responding agency or law enforcement. The Girls and Boys Town Center for Adolescent and Family Spirituality offers the following in responding to a child at the time of disclosure. Believe the child. Remain calm. Go with the child to a place where you can talk. Listen without interrupting. Reassure the child that he or she is loved and cared for. Respond to the child's questions or feelings with calm, matter-of-fact attitude, but don't pressure the child to talk more. When a child comes to you, remember to have the conversation in an appropriate and safe environment. If a child expresses safety concerns personally or for a family member, tell the child all that can be done will be done to assure their safety. Reassure the child that he or she did the right thing in coming to you. Tell the child it is not his or her fault. No fault, no shame. Instruct the child to tell you right away if the offender attempts molestation again or bothers him or her in any way, and report appropriately. Don't ask leading questions. Do keep in mind your role is to listen and report your concerns, not to serve as an investigator. Do refer to the appropriate authority as soon as possible. In the Diocese of Wilmington, any adult who has credible information of suspected child abuse, particularly by an employee or clergy or a volunteer in service to the diocese, is required to report to the appropriate civil authority, Child Protection Service, and the Vicar General of the Diocese of Wilmington. The parishes, schools, organizations, and people of this local church are committed to continuing to build an environment of faith, an environment of safety for all of God's children.